You do it.
I'm Hunter, and this is Sky. We bought one-way tickets to Colombia, and we want to bring you with us.
Started a new one. This is it.
Okay. Let's do the overview and then the intro.
Okay, sure. Maybe you do the overview. And then once you're done with saying this, I'll just give the little, like, we started here, now we're...
Okay. I'm imagining keeping this in. Today we're going to talk about picking up where we last left off, leaving the first farm, our first workaway experience, to travel to our second workaway travel experience in a small mountain town near Cali, Colombia. Although that distance is so far that we broke it up into 2 days. So our first travel, we stopped at a city called Ibague, where we got to stay with some friends, family of Sky, named Gloria.
If you've been following our journey, we started off in Bogota, and then we traveled up to La Vega to spend Hunter's birthday weekend there. That was really lovely. And then we went to Cachipay. We worked on a coffee farm for a week, and now this video is kind of more about spending our time in Ibague with Gloria's family. Gloria is one of my lovely friends who lives back in New York State. I would say this was one of our longest travel days so far, from Cachipay to Ibague. It was like roughly 4 hours. I think 2 buses that day.
To get to Ibague, yeah.
2 different buses. If I remember correctly, the first one, my seat was totally broken, so every time we hit a bump, I was just like being jolted around.
Oh yeah, because we hopped in the bus in Cachipay, and then the seats like are just janky, and like the bus that we hopped on, the seats are completely empty, and so we're like, oh, let's go sit in the back, because the back had like raised seats. Horrible idea. Do not sit in the back of the bus. Sit near the bus driver. That's where all the suspension is at. Because we were just getting rocked, or just getting rocked, or just getting rocked back and forth like a roller coaster, and our seats were broken.
Once we finally made it to the Ibague terminal, which, by the way, the bus terminals are so interesting. They're like mini airports, would you say? Like,
yeah. It's hard to explain because we don't really have anything like that in America. Like, we rarely use
maybe
buses.
Like Penn Station. It's kind of comparable.
It's a train station, though.
Yeah.
Subway.
We were greeted by Gloria's family, which is Juan, Rosita, her mother, Juan is her brother, and Mako, which is Gloria's stepdad.
Yeah, so we got there and she fed us an amazing plate of food. They whipped it up so quick. It was awesome.
Honestly, they like just kept feeding us while we were there.
Yeah.
We were never hungry while we
weren't
stayed
complaining.
there. Yeah, it was just delicious food.
Food was so good. And so one thing that I did want to talk about is the Colombian cuisine is filled. Every single meal that you're going to have here has plátano or plantain on it. Actually, the Colombian families that we've eaten with so far drink chocolate,
hot chocolate,
for breakfast
and lunch and dinner.
And it's just made out of cacao, and sometimes they sweeten it, sometimes they like it bitter. I prefer it sweet, and that's what Gloria's family had, which was fantastic. The food there was great. We got to stay in Gloria's room, which I took some photos of. They live in a high-rise apartment, and the whole city kind of felt like Miami. not in a bad way, but it was just like kind of more affluent
Yeah.
and cleaner than some of the other cities that we've seen so far.
There was like, we took a walk and there was some hip music going by the cafe.
Yeah.
Can you do it?
It was great, and it was just like such a trip. It was so funny because when we were there, Gloria's brother was like, we're gonna eat lunch and then we're gonna go out into town to eat. And then we were just like, what?
We weren't sure if we like understood because there's always like the language barrier, so
Yeah,
you're just
so-
like going with the flow. So we ate lunch and then we went out on the town and we ate more food.
And literally ate. We went to a restaurant to go out to eat. But during that same time, that was Christmas, the day before Christmas maybe. It was right around Christmas time. And so the reason we went out to town, not only just to eat again, but also to look at the lights. And their family is so funny. We went to go look at, like, they decorated this park with Christmas lights. And we went and took some photos there, and that was it. And then we left.
We paid for parking.
We paid for parking.
Took some photos
and
left.
Got out. And left. And then we went to go eat. Lots of eating. It was a good time. Mako is a wild driver, I will say. But that's just what it is. Growing up in Colombia, they barely have streetlights or anything here. You're driving in between buses and mopeds and motorcycles and horses and people riding their bicycles. So that was interesting. Speaking of Mako,
Yes.
Mako is Gloria's mother's husband now. Such an amazing guy. He always did the dishes. He cooked meals for us, and we just wanted to shout him out in this video because it was really special to us to see someone of such servitude.
So much selfless service.
Yeah.
I offered to help, and he was like, no.
And as soon as I was done with my plate of food, he took the plate into the sink,
Just started cleaning,
did all the dishes, cooked everything. The food was so good. Their soups are so amazing here. I absolutely love the soups. So another thing about Mako is during our time of travels, actually during December, we are reading the Gospel of Luke because there are 24 chapters in Luke, and if you start on December 1st, on the 24th you finish Luke, and the next day is Christmas, Jesus' birthday. So that was really special. So as we're reading through Luke, we come across
a parable. And we love interpreting the parables as we're reading the Bible because they're so interesting to us. But this one really stumped us.
Yeah, so we'll read you guys the parable. If you guys happen to know what this means, please let us know. For us, we didn't want to Google it right away and just find out the answer. We wanted to ask people. So as we're traveling, we are kind of finding out if people read the Bible, and if they do, then we ask them the parable. Mako happened to read the Bible quite frequently, and Gloria's mom is very religious, so we asked Mako when we were out to eat what the parable meant, and he knew right away. He said, I know what the parable means. Oh, actually, the reason that we brought it up around Mako is because 4 nuns came into the restaurant that we were eating at, and I told Sky, I was like, we should go ask the nun what the parable meant. And Gloria's brother translated that to her parents, and Mako was like, I know what the parable means. And we're like, what? And then he said it in Spanish, and Gloria's brother translated it for us, and we're like, that's interesting. It didn't hit us at first, and then we did some further research, and what Mako said was right in line with what everyone else was saying. So let us read you the parable. If you guys know what the parable means,
We want to hear what you think it means.
yeah.
Okay, so it's under a discussion about fasting.
This is Luke 5, right towards the end, a discussion about fasting.
No one tears a piece of cloth from a new garment and uses it to patch an old garment, for then the new garment would be ruined, and the new patch wouldn't even match the old garment. And no one puts a new wine into old wineskins, for the new wine would burst the wineskins, spilling the wine and ruining the skins. New wine must be stored in new wineskins. But no one who drinks the old wine seems to want the new wine. The old is just fine, they say.
So that was a real tricky one for us.
Under a discussion about fasting.
Pretty much what Mako said and what a few other people online said is that what Jesus is saying is the old wineskin is pretty much the old teachings or the Old Testament as we know it now, and the new wine would be Jesus and Jesus' teachings, or the New Testament as we know it now. Also, something that I thought about is sometimes you hear a parable and it resonates with you so deeply because you've gone through an experience like that where the wisdom in the parable rings true. Sometimes you hear a parable and if you're a young person you haven't gone through that event or whatever it is in life yet, so it doesn't necessarily, the wisdom doesn't necessarily make sense. So maybe that's the situation that we're encountering here, but we also think that
We don't know. That's why we're asking you guys what you think it means. And that's why we're asking other people during our travels what they think it means. And we're also asking God what it means. So every time we read it, we want to see if we get any new downloads to know what this parable could mean.
still learning, still growing, as you should as well.
Okay, so I think that's all for today.
Yeah.
That's all for today. Kind of a short video, but stay tuned. This was, what day? This is 5.
Yeah.
We made it to day 5.
We made it to day 5. Congratulations.
Day 5 out of our 30-day video challenge. Stay tuned for the next video tomorrow. We will be talking about leaving Gloria's family in Ibague and heading to Buena Vista.
Where we got to paraglide and we met a farmer who grew up working the Colombian cocaine farms, not by choice, and made it out alive. And we shook his hand and he gave us a tour of the farm, and it was beautifully fantastic, and we'd love to share that coffee farm with you guys. So stay tuned
For day 6.
for day 6.
Hasta mañana.
Ciao.